So now we want to get into the second part of today's masterclass on music directing, and it's kind of around the subject of execution. How do we do this? How do we actually music direct? What is Nigel doing on the mic? What is he actually saying to make the world turn? Let's talk about rehearsals first and foremost.
Okay.
How do we run a great rehearsal? Why do we run rehearsals? What's the point of it all?
Okay. Well, I think the first thing to do is understand what all the different elements that go into making a morning worship set great, okay? And it's not just the music, okay? That's a big part, but there are so many other teams that play into that, and it's understanding what those teams need. I think that's a big thing. I think time management is also really important, you know, because if you just left up to our own devices, yeah, sure, I'll take a 3-hour rehearsal and craft the most amazing set, you know. But you know, like I said, other teams need different things. And those teams being like your monitor guys, your front of house guys, your lighting, your stage hands, your stage managers, the production manager, all those. Everyone needs something to make everyone contributes to making a great service. So it's as a music director, I feel like we're in charge of the platform, and we need to be able to manage our time well and balance getting the best out of the musicians and making the worship leaders feel comfortable, and also making sure that all our teams have what they need.
Yeah. And the way that we do that here is we have a sound check and then a rehearsal. And that sound check is really important because it's actually making sure that the front of house guy gets to hear every single instrument. And musicians love to jam and they love to play, but we have actually quite a disciplined, we love it. We have quite a disciplined way that we run things, and that's each instrument plays and no one else plays. So we don't have musicians noodling over the top of someone else, because if we're trying to hear the tom sound, we don't need to hear a guitarist tuning up in the background. We're actually trying to do the best we can to set our production family up to win. And I know that sometimes sometimes worship teams and production teams often aren't on the best of terms, but at our church, we're actually really one team. We love our production family because we actually need them to do our jobs well. And so we do our best to set them up to win. So the way that we craft a rehearsal is we do each instrument separately, and then we run a band check, and then we allow our monitor guys any changes. But rather than everyone shouting out different things they need all during that, we actually try to have a form where we allow our monitor engineers actually time to set their mixes, and then there's a specified time that you can...
It's quite systematic, isn't it? Yeah.
And I think it's so that each engineer and each team can actually get what they need. That normally takes between 15 and 20 minutes. Then we move on to our vocal check, where we virtually do the same thing. And then we normally have about 30 to 45 minutes to work with the worship leader on the set. Is there anything else you want to say on rehearsals?
No, that's good. I think it's just about making everyone on platform feel comfortable.
Yes.
Feel comfortable with whether it's an ears mix or their wedges mix. Because you don't want to spend the whole rehearsal trying to get that right, because you'll never get into a flow, you know. So we try to get that right at the start. Make sure everyone's comfortable, really happy with their mix, because as musicians, if you're really comfortable with what you're hearing, you play better. So that's essentially the purpose of having an effective sound check at the start. And that makes just really the 30, 45 minutes of practice and rehearsal time a lot more effective.
Yeah. And we probably approach this slightly differently, because every music director is different. So I think Nigel brings his leadership to a rehearsal, and I bring my leadership, and there's no one way to do it. It's kind of you bring your principles and what you need to get done, and how you do that is really up to you. You can kind of bring your best to that. In rehearsal, I think it's really important to have a plan of going, okay, I have 30 to 45 minutes. What is maybe the song I need to run the most? Where would our vulnerabilities be? And actually choose to spend the time there, rather than playing your favorite praise song 4 times, but then you've burned half your rehearsal. So I think we don't need to labor that, but I think it's really important to think about your plan and what you actually need to get through, to run what you need to confidently. So secondly, can we talk about transitions? Transitions are one of the most important things that you will safeguard as a music director.
I think transitions will make or break a set, you know.
100%.
Let's talk about transitions then.
Look, I think we've all probably had transitions that were great and transitions that weren't. You can see visibly in the congregation someone that's just engaged in worship, and then all of a sudden you go from C to F sharp, and it's just this really wonky musical. And you literally see people that don't know anything about music kind of go, and kind of look around. And I think our goal as music directors would be to try to safeguard that anywhere we can. Have the music experience be as smooth and wonderful as possible.
Yeah, you want to minimize distraction.
Yes.
You know, you want people to, when we start, we want people to engage in the presence of God. You want them to really be able to lean in and just enjoy the journey of the set that we've crafted without being like, what was that crazy sound? Or why do I feel so uneasy at the moment?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
So in talking about transitions, I think one of the first and foremost things is see if you can get your set in quite a user-friendly keys. So for instance, if a song list came to me and the first song was in B, the second song was in C.
Oh gosh, this is stressing me already.
Third song would be in F sharp, and the last song would be in C. I would have a little bit of anxiety about that. And so I would have a chat to the worship leader and say, hey, JD, what do we think?
You blame JD on that, eh?
JD, no, JD's the master. How about we potentially craft the first two songs in C, yep. And then maybe instead of F sharp, maybe the third song could either be in F or G, mm-hmm. And then the last song would be in C.
So why is that? Why does that make it easier?
That would be because they've got kind of common notes together. So C, F, and G are all in the same scale.
Yep.
So that's the 4 and the 5 chord. Mm-hmm. And so they're very easy to do transitions, very easy to get to. So that would be my first point of call, is to see if you can work with your worship leader on their vocal. The second thing I think would be to see what common notes are in, say if we were in the key of A, mm-hmm. and we needed to get to the key of C.
You're right.
What would your approach to that be with some common notes?
Okay, so the first thing I think about is that the common notes would be E, so the fifth of A, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's the fifth of the A, is the third of the C. Okay. So we could have that common note playing through the transition, whether it's you know, something that has a bit of sustain. It could be the keys player playing a pad sound, or guitars playing an ambient sound. Count the next song, 2, 3, 4. And that's obviously a lot less jarring than having to go from, you know, if we're going from C to F sharp.
Lord help us.
It's so, you know, if there's no gap or if there's no common note, you know, it can be like a slap in the face. So, and you want to avoid that.
So then when we get in times where it is unavoidable and the worship leader goes, I'm so sorry, I can only sing that song in that key, which does happen.
100%, you know, because you want the worship leader to be comfortable in the way they can lead the song.
Yes. As a music director, if we ever put a worship leader in a setting where they can't sing a song because of a key that we've not done our jobs. Because our job, again, is to be a wingman. So even if there is tricky transitions, we have a plan. So Nige, if we've got some incompatible keys, how do we actually craft that as music directors?
Right, okay. So a couple of things straight away that I'll be thinking of is there a way that if we're going from, you mentioned C to F sharp, okay, so we're holding C. Now, there's not much common between C and F sharp, okay? So if we really
C diminished.
If we really needed to go from C to F sharp, what I would do is firstly ask, can we start the song that's in F sharp, can we start it with drums? Okay, so if we're holding the last chord, can the drummer start, we've rolled the click or the metronome, and then over that we can be like, to just bring all the tonal instruments to silence, and then at an appropriate time, just count the song in F sharp in, you know, count the rest of the music in. That way it just gives a break of the music, the tone to people's ears. It helps refresh your listening palette, if you like. That would be the first thing I'd do, is see if there's something that could break it up. If not, there's actually no harm in bringing it to silence.
Yep.
You know, a bit of silence is better than a jarring sort of note clashing like that sound. You know, you just want to avoid all those dissonant sounds. You know, what would you do?
Yeah, no, I think that's amazing. And then another thing that we've done is, say if we're going from two big songs that maybe silence drops the momentum a bit, we would call for like a really big crash out, to where it's kind of just really big simple swell that almost drowns out the tonal that you're talking about, and then actually just cover it with the momentum of the drums going from
so the
song 1
drums
to
are
2.
swelling and everyone's pulled everything else.
We would tell the bass to stop pedaling. We'd almost keep it just a nice big cymbal wash straight into the next song.
Or it could be a great time for the worship leaders to read a scripture there.
There you go.
We bring it out to silence, they can have a chat, and we'll bring in the new key.
Yeah, there's plenty of times on a tour that I think that we would finish the song in B, and then we would be going into, say, from memory, a song like the Creed.
Oh, yeah.
But then what we would do is kind of stop, have a breath.
Yep.
Nige would normally bring in a really great ambient pad sound, and then we had planned for kind of Ben Fielding or Ruben or whoever was on to actually read a scripture and engage. So it makes a moment out of it, rather than just focusing on the half-step tonal difference that is a little bit jarring to every musician.
Yes.
But in short, with transitions, it's really important that you safeguard them. We do something in rehearsal called top and tail, which is the last kind of 5 minutes of a rehearsal. We really just run the intro to a song, first chorus, then the outro, and do that all the way through all 4 songs.
Yep.
We do it in about 5 minutes, and we're really trying to just safeguard our transitions, make sure everyone is really confident and aware of those dynamics, so that it's a beautiful set.